Johnny Carson once told his friends about the 8 most beautiful women he ever had on his show. For 30 years, Johnny Carson welcomed America into his TV home every night. He introduced viewers to thousands of famous people from all parts of show business. But behind that familiar desk, Carson was not just asking questions. He was watching how people acted, almost like a scientist. Johnny noticed tiny things about people that they did not even know about themselves. That is what a longtime Tonight Show producer said. He worked with Carson for more than 10 years. He could see very small face movements. He caught the tiniest details in how someone stood or moved. And when it came to beautiful women, Johnny paid extra close attention. In his later years, after he left the show, Carson sometimes shared private thoughts with close friends about all the stars who visited his stage. One night at his home in Malibu, after a few glasses of fancy scotch made him more open than usual, Carson surprised everyone. He named the 8 most amazingly beautiful women who ever came on his show. It was not just about regular prettiness, said someone who was there that night. Johnny talked about their special presence. That hard-to-explain thing that made cameras love some women. That made the whole studio audience stop breathing for a second. That sometimes even made TV's smoothest host forget what he was saying for a moment. Tonight, we are sharing Johnny Carson's own list of the 8 most beautiful women who ever came to The Tonight Show. Not just how pretty they looked, but the special things Carson noticed about each one during their amazing visits to TV's biggest late-night stage. Let's start with the woman Carson said had the kind of beauty that made time stand still. An actress whose walk into the studio made the famous host forget his own name for a second. Would you welcome Raquel Welch? Raquel Welch, the woman who took over every room. When Raquel Welch stepped onto the Tonight Show stage for the first time in 1970, something amazing happened. Johnny Carson, the most calm and in-control host on TV, went quiet for a moment. For a man whose whole job was built on perfect coolness, those few seconds of looking uncomfortable said a lot about how strong Raquel's presence was. She came on the show many times and always left people amazed. Remembered a camera operator who filmed lots of her visits. The reaction was real. You could feel everyone take a big breath when she walked out. I ran camera too. It was set to catch the guest coming in. My director always said quietly in my ear before she appeared, "Go slow on this one. Nobody will mind." What made Raquel's Tonight Show visit so special was not just her amazing looks, even though they were impossible to miss, but the way she carried herself with total confidence. Unlike many pretty actresses who made jokes about their looks or acted shy, Raquel walked like she knew exactly how she affected people, and she was okay with it. Carson said off camera once, "She does not just walk into a room, she owns it." A producer who worked right with him shared that, and he said it like a big compliment. Johnny really liked guests who knew their own power and used it on purpose. Raquel knew what she was doing every single second on camera. Her timing, her hand movements, even how she crossed and uncrossed her legs. It was like watching someone teach a class on how to rule a TV spot. This skill went beyond just looking great. It was about knowing how to make TV moments people remembered. Back then, before people taught stars how to act on TV like experts do now, Raquel just naturally knew how to use her time on Carson's couch the best way. Her face, her body, her perfect timing. She had everything, said a Tonight Show writer who wrote questions for many of her visits. Most pretty guests counted mostly on their looks, but Raquel added more. She had quick jokes, fun stories, and this gentle flirty way with Johnny that made sparks fly on screen. She knew beauty might get you asked to come once, but your personality got you asked back again and again. Behind the scenes, Rackwell's visits made a fun kind of mess with the Tonight Show workers. The usual serious crew found all kinds of clever excuses to be around during her parts. One worker called it the Rackwell effect. Suddenly twice as many guys showed up in Studio One whenever her name was on the list. We had accounting guys saying they needed to check something with production when she was on. The camera operator laughed. Engineers who stayed in their rooms usually found sudden problems that needed fixing right on set. Even big NBC bosses, who almost never came to recordings, showed up and stood in the back. Johnny saw it too. During one break, he joked, if she joined the army, nobody would skip the draft. For Carson himself, Rackwell was a real test of staying co. As all at work, he usually kept a little distance from even the most dazzling guests. But with her, sometimes he had trouble keeping that distance. There was one time she wore a red dress with a super low neckline. The producer remembered it. Johnny started asking something, forgot what he was saying halfway through, looked at his note card, then looked up and said, "Sorry, what was I saying?" Everyone laughed big because they all knew why. Johnny almost never got mixed up on air. So when it happened, and it happened more than once with Rackwell, it felt funny and real. Even with those little distracted moments, what Carson liked most about Welch was how smart she was and how well she knew herself. Unlike some pretty actresses who got mad about being seen mostly for looks, she accepted her image and used it smartly to build a real career. Johnny once told me Rackwell knows exactly who she is and what she stands for. A talent coordinator who worked close with Carson shared that. She does not fight it, say sorry for it, or pretend it is not there. That is rare and nice. Coming from Johnny, who spent his life watching people, that meant a lot. You could see this liking for Rackwell's realness in how Carson talked to her. He asked real questions about her work choices, her time as one of the first big Latina stars in Hollywood, even if people did not talk about that much back then, and her thoughts on a business that often cared only about how she looked. Their talks went deeper than you expected, the writer said. Johnny did not just ask easy questions about her new movie or say how pretty she was. He talked to her like someone with smart ideas and real stories. That respect, plus how much he clearly liked looking at her, made their talks feel important and exciting at the same time, with this nice quiet spark nobody said out loud. As we say goodbye to Rackwell's American style, we move to pure European class. The Italian movie star who's just being there on Carson's stage felt like a lesson in sexy charm without even speaking. I. Hutchner called Sophia living and loving, and it's a great kick to welcome her tonight. Would you welcome Sophia Loren? Sophia Loren, the Italian Venus who made America's favorite host get nervous. When Sophia Loren came on The Tonight Show for the first time in 1979, the feeling in Studio One changed completely. This world-famous movie star brought more than great looks. She brought old-style class and a sexy grown-up feeling that felt far from normal Hollywood prettiness. Just her walk-in, sure of herself, slow and calm like a queen, told everyone this was no regular guest. Carson looked nervous during their first talk. A director who worked that night remembered. Johnny always tried to treat every guest the same, from new comedians to the biggest stars. But with Sophia, things felt different. His body moved differently. He leaned in more. He laughed extra hard at what she said. He kept fixing his tie. All little signs that people who knew him well could see meant Johnny Carson, king of calm TV, was really touched by her being there. Unlike American pretty women who often seemed friendly and easy to talk to, Lauren brought heavy European style and mature sexy charm that surprised Carson a bit. Her answers to his questions were deep and sometimes bold. She said them with an Italian accent that made even simple things sound beautiful like a song. You do not interview Sophia Loren, you try to get through it, a Tonight Show writer laughed. He got ready for her parts. He did not mean it bad, the opposite. She brought amazing strength to the talk. Her eyes would hold Johnny's when she spoke. You could almost see him working hard to stay cool and professional. One time she talked about a movie scene and put her hand on Johnny's arm to make her point stronger. I thought we might have to go to break just so he could calm down again. What made Lauren so interesting on The Tonight Show was how different she was from her hot movie image and how thoughtful she could talk, sometimes even deep like a thinker. People might expect just a sexy star talking about looking good. Instead, they got a woman with real smart ideas about things like Italian serious movies or staying real in Hollywood. The Italian star with famous curves and burning confidence, a TV critic who wrote about her said. But what made her so great was that looks were only the start. Her smart mind, her view as a European artist in America, her childhood in Italy during war, all of it showed in these deep talks with Carson. She was not just beautiful, she was really interesting. Behind the scenes, Lauren's visits made the Tonight Show workers get ready in a quiet, almost holy way. Unlike the wild energy with some pretty guests, Lauren made people feel deep respect. A quiet came over the usually loud team when they got set for her. The crew treated her like real royalty, a production helper who worked her shows remembered. Not only because she looked amazing, but because of what she stood for, this world movie star who worked with the best directors ever. No normal backstage jokes or fooling around when Sophia was coming. Everyone acted their very best, wanting to show her the honor they thought she deserved. For Carson, Lauren was a special kind of guest. Her big meaning in culture and art needed real serious talk. Even though her great beauty made a clear pull of attraction, the mix of brain respect and liking how she looked gave their talks a special, exciting feeling. Johnny had this great mix of wonder and liking with her, someone close to Carson said. He was dazzled by how she looked, who would not be? But he also really respected her as an artist who made her own amazing path. That mix made their talks feel extra special. Johnny would ask a smart question about her movies with De Sica or Fellini. He leaned in really wanting her answer, while also seeming a little lost in just being near her. It felt sweet because it was so real. What people watching at home might not have caught fully was how Lauren's Tonight Show times were different from most American talk shows. Many hosts mostly talked about her as a sexy star. Carson always talked to her whole self as an artist, a mom, a woman who lived through poor war times to become a world star. She gave her best back because of that respect, the writer said. Their talks felt real and full, even with this fun wrapping of liking each other and admiring each other. She talked about hard things, her tough childhood, how hard it was to be seen as both pretty and smart, moving between European and American movies, but with warm feeling and sometimes playful flirty touches that kept things light. As we move from Lauren's fancy European charm to the next one, we meet a completely different beauty. The fresh, all-American girl whose big smile stopped everything when she first sat with Carson. Thank you, yeah, and even when we're not busy, we don't go to New York. I mean, unless we absolutely have to. Now why Bo Derek, the perfect 10 who made the whole studio go quiet? When Bo Derek came on The Tonight Show late in 1979, soon after her movie 10 made her America's new dream girl overnight, something new happened. The usually loud Studio One crowd went totally silent when she walked out. This was not the normal happy clapping for stars. It was everyone shocked in a good way, so quiet that Carson had to wait longer than usual to start talking. She became super famous right after 10, a talent helper from that time said. But even people who saw the movie were not ready for how she felt in real life. Beauty right in front of you in the same room feels different. The camera actually made her look less amazing, which almost never happens with stars. Unlike many quick famous people who came with practice stories and fake charm, Derek brought a sweet natural realness to her Tonight Show times. Her beauty was clear, but Carson later said what made her strongest was how she seemed not to know how much she affected people. Carson called her a living statue and said she threw off his usual flow. A producer close to him remembered. Johnny said she was one of the few who made him forget his next question. Not because she said something wild, but because she looked so unbelievable and yet acted so normal and nice as a person. That mix was super hard to handle, even for someone like Carson who saw it all. What made Derek's visit stand out was how she affected not just Carson but the whole place. Cameramen kept their lenses on her even when they should switch to Johnny. Normal NBC helpers hung around the stage more. Even Doc Severinsen and the band guys, who saw tons of pretty women, got quiet when Derek talked. The audience did not even blink the whole time. A camera operator laughed, remembering. I'm not sure they breathed. You could hear the air conditioning because it was so quiet and everyone focused. Johnny noticed too. During one break he told Ed, I could read the phone book now and they would think it was great. Ed said back, they have not looked away from her long enough to see you are still here. Behind the scenes, Derek's times were special because she asked for almost nothing like other stars. Back then, many pretty actresses wanted special lights, certain camera shots, lists of things not to ask. Derek seemed like she did not even know about all that TV selling stuff. She came alone, no helpers, no special wishes, no list of things to say. The producer said, our team getting ready was a little lost because she just wanted to answer Johnny honestly with no plan. In a world full of planning and image control, that realness felt fresh and a little strange. Carson, who could spot real versus fake personality so well, saw it right away. Why and liked it a lot. On air, he stayed his usual smooth self, but later he told people how much he liked her no Hollywood fake ways. Johnny told his producer after her first time, she does not know how beautiful she is and that makes her twice as beautiful. Someone close to Carson shared that. That was big praise from a man who met every kind of beauty and star for years. He liked that she did not use her looks like a tool. They just were part of her, like eye color or being right-handed. This natural way showed when she talked about sudden fame from 10. She mixed thanks with a little confusion, which Carson found really nice. Unlike stars who acted fake shy or used fame smartly, Derek really seemed surprised by how people reacted to her big role. One time Johnny asked about suddenly being called a sex symbol. Her answer was so simple and real, the talent helper remembered. She said something like, it is nice but strange because I feel the same as always. She said it with no tricks or fake shy. Johnny just smiled and said, the rest of us definitely do not feel the same since the movie. The crowd laughed loud, but you could tell he really liked how down-to-earth she was. For Carson, who made his living telling real people from acted ones, Derek was something hard to find in Hollywood, real beauty with real actions. In quiet talks, he compared her to guests who came with made-up stories and fake selves. Johnny once said most pretty actresses learned how to be famous. They built a show personality to match their looks, the producer said. He said Beau was different. Fame hit her so fast she did not have time to build those fake parts. He found that super refreshing in a world where realness was getting harder to find. As we go from Derek's fresh, clean American looks to the next, we meet Hollywood royalty whose fame came before her, making one of the most waited for Tonight Show nights in Carson's time. Well, I'm sure you were very cautious this last time. That is true. I. Elizabeth Taylor, Hollywood royalty who ruled the stage. Getting Elizabeth Taylor on The Tonight Show was so big that NBC bosses, who usually let Carson do his thing, actually came to planning meetings to figure out how to make it the best. Many people saw her as the last real Hollywood goddess. She almost never did TV talks, so her 1992 visit to Carson's couch felt like a huge TV moment. Her purple eyes, her diamonds, her whole being took over the set. A stage manager that night remembered. When Taylor got to the studio, you could feel the air change. Workers who met presidents, music greats, and top stars suddenly fixed their clothes and stood straighter. She brought this special feeling, like we were not just with a famous person but with real Hollywood history. Unlike most guests who got walked to the waiting room by a helper, Taylor's arrival had extra special treatment. The top producer met her at the door himself, and Carson, who almost never saw guests before they went on, made an exception to say hello quick before taping. Johnny later said she was Hollywood royalty and she knew it. A producer who saw them before the show shared that. He did not mean it bad at all. He liked that she knew her big place in history and acted like it. No fake shy, no acting like she was normal. Elizabeth Taylor knew she was the last great star from old Hollywood, and she carried that weight right. You saw this right away when she walked in. Unlike young stars who bounced out waving big, Taylor came slow and calm, giving a small nod and smile to the standing clap that felt kind and queen-like at once. Other guests walked in. She arrived, a cameraman that night said. It is hard to explain if you were not there, but most stars come in wanting the crowd to like them. When Taylor came in, she gave them her presence. She did not need their okay, she knew her worth. That sure feeling plus her great beauty even later in life made an electric second, where the whole studio held its breath. The talk itself felt like a lesson in real star power. Most guests leaned in eager to connect with Carson and the crowd. Taylor stayed calm and a little held back. That made Carson, TV's strongest question asker, work harder to pull things out of her instead of leading like usual. It was fun to watch the power switch, a Tonight Show writer who saw it said. Johnny was used to being the main point everyone reacted to. With Taylor, things flipped a little. She became the main point. Johnny smartly changed his usual way to fit that. He stayed the great pro, but you could see him leaving room for her huge star status in a way he rarely did. This change showed not just in how he asked questions, but in small behind-camera choices made just for Taylor. Lights got moved to catch her famous purple eyes better. Cameras did more close shots than normal for guests. Even Bria. Kay's got changed a bit so her part had more time without stops. All signs they gave extra care to a guest seen as American show business royalty. The control room had a special note that day, more tight shots on the eyes, the director remembered. We never got that kind of exact direction for shooting someone, but everyone knew those famous eyes were part of what made her Elizabeth Taylor. We wanted home viewers to see them clear. It was not just catching a pretty woman, it was saving a famous piece of Hollywood history. For Carson, Taylor linked him to an old Hollywood time that shaped how he saw stars and glamour. In talks after she came, he said how much he liked that she kept the mystery and class of old Hollywood when newer stars acted more easy and open. Johnny told his producer after, "You do not see that anymore, that kind of big stardom." Someone there shared that. She does not give everything away, she keeps some for herself. That holding back that mystery was something Carson really liked when most stars started sharing everything. This liking for Taylor's old-style star quality showed in how Carson did the talk. With extra care and respect, he rarely gave even big names. He asked deep questions about her long career, her helping work, her thoughts on how Hollywood changed since she started as a kid actor. He treated her not just as pretty, but as a living piece of movie history. There was real honor in how Johnny did the talk, the writer said. Not sucking up, Carson was too pro for that. But clear knowing he talked to the last of a kind of movie star mostly gone from America. He wanted his viewers to get a peek at that old Hollywood that hardly existed anymore. As we move from Taylor's always beautiful style to the next, we meet a different beauty. The sunny California girl whose bright smile started a million posters and changed TV forever. I haven't seen you for a while. You look, as they say, smashing. Oh, thank you. You really do. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this must have been quite a challenge. Farrah Fawcett, the sunshine girl with the $1 million smile. In 1976, a poster of Farrah Fawcett in a red swimsuit sold more than 12 million copies. It became the top-selling pinup ever. When she came on The Tonight Show that same year, soon after Charlie's Angels started, the crowd's cheering went so long and loud that Carson had to tell his director to cut some for TV. It was rare for applause to be too much even on TV's biggest talk show. Her smile alone made people go wild. An NBC helper working the crowd that night remembered. People forget now, but in 1976, Farrah was the perfect mix. Her poster, her show, her whole look came together to make something bigger than normal fame. When she walked onto Carson's stage, it felt like the Beatles showed up. I had to ask people in the audience to please sit down because they stood up to see her better. Unlike some pretty women who seemed far away or super sexy, Fawcett brought a glowing, happy energy that felt easy to like. Carson later said that was what made her stand out among all the beautiful women he met. She brought sunshine and sexy at the same time, a talent helper who set up her visits said. Where someone like Elizabeth Taylor or Sophia Loren made a quiet respect, Farrah made real joy. People smiled just seeing her. Johnny noticed right after her first time. He told his producer, "She is like human champagne. The room feels more fun when she is here." This bubbly feeling went into how Fawcett talked. Unlike guests who thought careful about answers or hid personal stuff, she came with excitement and openness that Carson found fresh and sometimes hard to match with his usual slow pace. Carson once joked, "If she came every week, I would forget how to talk." A writer who made questions for her remembered. He said it with love. Her energy pulled him in so much it sometimes messed with his normal talk speed. She got excited about things, leaned forward, her famous blonde hair bouncing, that big smile shining. Johnny sometimes just sat back and let her go because the crowd loved her so much. Behind the scenes, Fawcett's visits made everyone extra excited before she came. Pretty women came often, but few made that much buzz before. On days Farrah was booked, you saw guy workers suddenly in nicer clothes than normal. The talent helper laughed. Guys in regular shirts came in suits and ties. More people suddenly needed to be on set during her parts. Even Johnny, who always dressed the same, seemed to fix himself up more on her days. What made Fawcett so good on talk shows was how she went with the moment and played fun. Things Carson loved, because he liked real not planned times. Many stars came with set stories. Fawcett happily followed Johnny into new talk areas. One time Johnny joked about her famous hair. Farrah right away dared him to try fixing it. A cameraman. That night remembered. She turned in her chair quick, gave him a brush, and said, "Show me how you do it." The crowd went nuts, and Johnny, who almost never did that kind of fun physical stuff with guests, stood up and made a few careful brushes while looking scared he would mess up her perfect hair. It was not planned and super funny. This ready-for-fun way went to how she handled Johnny's sometimes flirty comments. She answered with laughs instead of getting upset, making playful fun chemistry that made great TV. Johnny might say something like, "I do not know how your husband lets you out of his sight." Farrah came back quick with, "Well, he knows I am seeing you, Johnny, so he thinks I am safe." The writer remembered. It was perfect balance. Johnny could notice how great she looked without it feeling weird. She could play along without it feeling bad. They had great TV back and forth that way. For Carson, who talked to so many pretty actresses in his long time, Fawcett was a special kind of all-American charm he really liked. In private talks, he compared her natural sunny feeling to the more made-up glamour that got common in Hollywood. Johnny once told his producer Farrah was beautiful like good health, not just good genes someone close shared. He meant she gave off active, lively energy, like her beauty came from sun, pools, tennis, not just lucky body or careful pictures. He found that extra nice after years of more careful, controlled stars. As we leave Farrah's California sunny feeling, we turn to a different beauty, the classy style of a rule-breaking actress who brought great looks and big history to her Tonight Show times. Call Diahann Carroll, elegant pioneer with unmatchable poise. When Diahann Carroll walked onto the Tonight Show stage, she brought more than great beauty. She brought the quiet weight of someone who broke big walls in American show business. As the first black woman to star in her own network TV show in a normal role with Julia in 1968, Carroll stood for both glamorous looks and important history, a mix Carson treated with special respect and liking. Stunning, classy, and always calm, a producer who worked many of her times said. Where most guests showed at least a little nerves when they first sat with Johnny, Carroll always looked fully calm, like talking to TV's biggest man was just normal. That calm control, plus her clear smartness and good talking, made a great presence that felt warm and a little queen-like. Unlike many pretty actresses who played down their brains to seem easier, Carroll brought thoughtful class to her Tonight Show talks. She talked not just about new work, but bigger things about her life as a black woman in a business that did not give many chances to people who looked like her. Carson liked her talent and style. He said, "She walks in like she is floating." A talent helper who booked her many times remembered. But what really got him was how she could talk about big things, racism in Hollywood, feeling responsible as a first, keeping real art while staying fun and liked. Johnny once told his producer she can say important things without sounding like a teacher. That is rare. Behind the scenes, Carroll's visit stood out for how everyone respected her the same high way. Unlike wild excitement with some pretty guests, Carroll made deep pro-admiration, a knowing they were with someone full of talent and big history. Beauty with real power behind it, a stage manager during her time said. You felt it the second she got to the studio. No normal backstage jokes when Diahann was coming. Everyone from helpers to bosses gave her special care that went past usual star respect. It was not just looks, though she was beautiful. It was who she was and what she stood for. What made Carroll so good on The Tonight Show was mixing glamorous beauty with real talk. She could go from fashion to civil rights easy and strong. Unlike guests stuck on certain topics, Carroll switched smooth between light fun chat and serious talk about being a first. One special moment, Johnny asked about a new role. Carroll gently but strong turned it to still limited chances for black actresses, a writer remembered. She did it so nice no one felt weird. Johnny jumped right into the new topic. It showed her quiet wish to use her spot smart. Most guests would never turn Carson like that. If they tried, it might feel tense. When Carol did, it felt normal. This skill of talking big things while staying perfect calm really impressed Carson. He liked guests who brought real meaning without losing fun. In private talks, he said how much he liked how Carol handled being both glamorous star and important history person. Johnny once said to his producer after she came, "She never makes you pick between taking her serious and liking her company." Someone close shared. That was big praise from him, knowing she mastered being deep and fun, important and charming at once. Many guests could do one, but rarely both. Carol's clothes for tonight's show times became famous with workers. Her classy style showed the elegance she brought to everything. Unlike young stars chasing trends, she built timeless class Carson really liked. She never came in anything less than perfect taste, the talent helper remembered. When others ran after hot fashions, Diane came in perfect classic outfits that felt new and forever. Johnny, with his old-style taste, loved that. He once said, "She dresses like someone who respects herself and her watchers." Coming from Carson with his classic ways, that meant a lot. For Carson, Carol stood for a grown-up classy beauty he found less and less in a business crazy for young. In private, he compared her careful elegance to short-lived prettiness of much younger stars. Johnny told his producer once, "Diane knows true style lasts longer than fashion." The producer shared. He meant it for both how she looked and how she built her whole career. Something real and lasting, not quick fame or short trends. That lasting feeling earned his biggest respect. As we move from Carol's classy style to the next, we meet the European beauty who made one of the most famous movie moments ever, coming out of the ocean in a scene that changed action films forever. Isn't that disgusting behavior? Yeah, did you hear that one guy yells out, "I love you," and he doesn't even know you? The number. Well, yeah. Ursula Andress, the original Bond girl who stopped the show. When Ursula Andress came on The Tonight Show in the 1960s, soon after playing the first Bond girl in Dr. No, the Swiss actress brought special fame for making one of movies' most remembered moments, walking out of the sea in a white bikini. That scene went straight into film history and set the way for sexy action movie looks that still happen today. The original Bond girl, and you could tell, an NBC boss there for her first time remembered. Her beauty felt almost like a myth, perfect mix of European class and natural sexy. When she walked onto Carson's stage, the audience took one big breath together. It was not just liking, it felt closer to wonder. Unlike American actresses who often felt like the nice girl next door, Andress brought clear European style, straight, fully sexy, and honest in answers to Carson. Where American pretty women might joke away compliments, Andress took them calm and sure. Carson found that new and nice. Her being there made Johnny lose his place in his opening talk. A cameraman from one early time remembered. He was saying the guests, got to her name, stopped halfway, looked right at her on the green room screen and forgot what came next. For Carson, the most ready pro host, to show that was almost never seen. He fixed quick, but that short flustered second said a lot about her power. What made Andress so good on The Tonight Show was the difference between her goddess body and her straight, no-fake way of talking. Unlike many pretty actresses who felt planned, Andress brought European honesty to talk about work and life. Carson found it hard but fun. He was not just hosting, he was caught, a writer who made questions for her said. What made Ursula different was she did not act beautiful. She just was it, no work, no plan. With her Swiss-German straight talk, she answered Frank's sometimes surprising Carson. It made real true moments that felt like listening in on interesting talk, not regular show chat. Behind the scenes, Andress's times made a focused feeling with workers. Unlike excitement with some pretty guests, with Andress it felt respectful, knowing they were with someone who made real history. The crew gave her mix of pro-respect and hidden wonder, a production helper remembered. Very little normal backstage jokes or easy feeling when Ursula came. Everyone acted perfect, like real royalty arrived. It was not just beauty, though it was great. It was her place as maker of that famous movie moment everyone knew. This knowing her big meaning went to how Carson did their talks. He never ignored how she looked, but he also talked serious about her big effect on movies, how that beach scene changed her life and action films. Johnny had great skill to notice a beautiful woman's looks and still respect her work reel, someone close said. With Ursula, he hit perfect balance, liking her amazing looks without making her only that. He asked deep questions about her choices, working with different directors, how Bond changed since her big start. What really got Carson about Andress was no fake shy about her effect. Unlike many who played down being sexy stars or felt bad talking about it, Andress said straight about her famous scene and its meaning. One time Johnny asked about the white bikini. Her answer was perfect straight, the writer remembered. She said something like, "Of course it changed everything. You do not make a moment like that and think life stays same." No fake shy, no acting like it did not matter, just honest real talk. Johnny later told his producer he found that honesty super nice in a world of fake. For Carson, who lived spotting real V's acted, Andress was rare in Hollywood, sure without being stuck up. Beauty with no sorry European straight without tricks. In private, he compared her way to more made-up American stars getting common. Johnny once told his producer Ursula did not seem to need America's okay, the boss shared. He meant big praise, that she brought European self-sure that did not need always being told good. She knew herself, knew her movie history place, carried herself sure without needing crowd or reviews. Carson found that self-full feeling unusual and great. As we finish looking at Carson's most beautiful guests, we come to the woman who never came on his show but held a special spot in his list of great beauties. A star whose not being there felt like its own thing. Aren't you ashamed of those suspicions you had about me? Terribly. Cut it good, thank you. Marilyn Monroe, the beautiful ghost of The Tonight Show. Maybe the most interesting name on Carson's list of most beautiful women on The Tonight Show was the one who never actually sat there, Marilyn Monroe. Though she died in 1962, just months before Carson became full host, her memory stayed big over his whole time. Carson sometimes talked about her as the dream guest he missed. Even without coming in person, Carson mentioned her a lot. A longtime producer who worked most of his 30 years said. It became almost a habit over years. Johnny would talk to a pretty actress or sexy star, and sometimes say something about Monroe as the one all glamour got measured against. There was feeling she stood for something perfect about American beauty, and fame that later stars got close to but never fully reached. This interest in Monroe was not just work curiosity about a big name. It showed Carson's real sadness at missing chance to talk to someone he saw as super interesting. In quiet talks, he sometimes wondered how a Monroe talk would go if times lined up. He once called her the most beautiful woman who never sat in that chair, someone who knew him well remembered. Johnny had ideas about Monroe, that under the made-up sexy goddess was a smart hurt person with real art dreams. He thought she would make a great talk because of that pull between what people saw and who she really was. It was the kind of deep person that brought out Carson's best questions. What made Carson's thoughts on Monroe special was how they changed over his years. In 1960s and early 70s, he mostly talked about her as top sexy star. By 1980s and 90s, as people saw more about her hard life and fights, Carson's words showed deeper liking for her mixed story. She haunted the stage without ever stepping on it, a writer from his later years said. By time I started in 1980s, Johnny's mentions of Monroe moved from just calling her top blonde bomb to deeper thoughts on how show business made her, and then let her down. As he got older and saw more about fame's machine, he got more feeling for what Monroe went through. This change matched how everyone started seeing Monroe different, from sexy star to sad story to strong woman icon. It showed Carson kept learning new views on show history. Unlike some others who stayed stuck on first ideas, Carson took new facts and changed views into how he saw Monroe. Johnny once talked with a movie history guest during break. Monroe came up, the producer remembered. The history person shared new info about Monroe's smart likes, her poems, serious acting lessons with Lee Strasberg, her books of big literature. Johnny got really interested and later told his producer, "We all missed who she really was. We saw what we wanted." That was deep thinking from someone in show business so long. This growing liking for Monroe's deep side sometimes showed when Carson talked to actresses who played her or got compared to her. Instead of just how they looked like or copied sexy, Carson often asked deeper about how they understood Monroe's hurt feelings or hard pressures as beauty and sexy icon. One interesting time he talked to an actress who just played Monroe in a TV movie. The writer remembered. Instead of usual questions about copying her voice or looks, Johnny asked how she showed Monroe's soft side and smart mind. It showed the deeper view he built over years. This knowing that Monroe's beauty, great as it was only part of a much harder and sad real story. For Carson, Monroe stood for perfect mix of amazing beauty and deep interesting mind. The dream talk show guest with looks and real talk chances. Her not coming stayed in his head as one big miss of his long work. In his laws. Years on show, Johnny sometimes had what if talks with producers about dream guests he never got. Someone close shared. Monroe always came first. He believed she would be not just stunning to see, but really interesting. Someone who lived right in middle of American fame and paid big personal price. As a question asker who always looked for real person under image, Carson saw Monroe as biggest test. The woman whose outside image took over her inside life so much that even she had trouble telling them apart.